People that work or have worked in bikini waxing salons, what is the worst disturbing experience you have come across while giving someone a bikini wax? NSFW. This wasn't really something gross that the client did, but something that the esthetician did. I'm currently in school for aesthetics, and one of my instructors was telling us about a former student who was scheduled her first Brazilian appointment. Everything went well until she got to the woman's beehole and she wasn't really sure what to do with it. So she scooped some hard wax up with a popsicle stick, spread it across, and stuck it inside her beehole like we do with nose waxes. Someone had come in after some personal time with their partner. Obviously there was no scene-dom used or no cleanup after, because my waxing bed got cream bead. The worst thing I've had to experience, and I'm now in nursing. I have one. A girl came into my salon a month before she got married. She had never groomed her pubic hair and claimed to be a virgin. She wanted to be waxed right before her wedding. Completely natural, right? I recommended she get a wax now and another before the big day, since there was no way of KOing how her prized lady bits would react to the wax. She declined and set an appointment 3 days before her wedding. Fair enough. When she came back, I was not prepared for the amount of pubic hair she had. It was unusual for a fair-skinned blonde client to have long coarse black hair. But whatever, it's my job. So I trim her up, clean her, and prepare to wax her. Again, she had ungodly amounts of dark hair. Even trimmed, her skin was barely visible. So after inspecting her and not seeing any issues, I begin waxing. I kid you not, she had skin tags and perturbing moles that I did not see before starting. To get to the point, I pulled a strip from her labia area and pulled off about 20 skin tags. She yelled. The entire salon heard. And then she started bleeding. Like gushing blood. We know how to handle bleeding pores. But I had never heard of this. So we are both screaming and crying, and I have to call her an ambulance because she would not stop bleeding. I thought I almost killed her. Maybe not the grossest story, but it was traumatic. I changed professions soon after. I imagine her wedding night wasn't magical either. Edit to answer questions. What I perceived to be skin tags could very well have been HPV. That being said, her client info form indicated she had no known illness or conditions. Also, I've waxed a few warts before. Sometimes they tear or even bleed, but they don't come off intact the way these did. Yes, obviously the room and equipment was fully sanitized after the incident. True, an ambulance is expensive here in the States, but it was a necessary call. She was still bleeding heavily when the EMTs arrived, and it's the responsibility of the business. From what I understand, I wasn't fired. I didn't get in any trouble. But I did feel guilty, so I voluntarily stood before my state board and told them what happened. It was fine. No repercussions. I never heard from her again, though we did attempt to contact her to check in. Nada. Yes, she was a little fat. I would say overweight, but not obese. Her hygiene seemed fine. A skin tag is fleshy deposit of excess skin. They have a ton of causes, but they are often in places that sweat or rub a lot. Common on larger people, though average and thin people get them too. They usually aren't painful, unless they are messed with. Like trying to pop it like a pimple, scratching, attempting to remove it. Yeah, no. Stuff like that. I used to be an esthetician and I'll never forget the first Brazilian I ever gave a girl. I was inexperienced, so to get the BTT area I made her go on all fours. After I powdered up her BTT, I was holding her cheeks open and closely examining the direction of her hair growth, so I'd know which direction to spread the wax, as I was trained to do. Then all of a sudden I see her beehole opening, and closing and opening, and closing, and then bam. She fully farted in my face. She was super embarrassed, and said it was an air bubble. Didn't smell like one though. Briefly worked as a waxer after I graduated from cosmetology school. Quit after this dude kept coming in with larger and larger oral beads in his ass. Esthetician here. My worst experience was a full Brazilian wax on an extremely obese woman. I was relatively new to the field and lacked the experience to deal with this type of situation. I couldn't get the angles right. I felt so awkward asking her to hold her stomach that blanketed over her vagina, and her legs were just too large for me to actually reach the area. She was unable to bend the legs properly. I think at one point I lost wax between a fold and had to pry the skin hair apart to apply the strip. I remember my back hurting from the way my body was positioned, frantically trying to finish on time for my next client, and so much sweat. Both of us. It was the dead middle of summer. I'm sure a seasoned esthetician may have been able to handle this better, but that's my worst experience. I currently work at a waxing center and I have had many foul experiences. I love my job, but sometimes I wonder why I still do this. A new client had come in for a full Brazilian. She was no older than 17, and it was her first time doing it. I was trying to make her as comfortable as possible and explain everything I was doing. So we finish the front and I tell her to flip over and hold her BTT cheeks so I can do the BTT strip. I apply the wax over her beetle. I guess she wasn't expecting it because she farted and blew a bubble with the wax. It popped so loudly that it echoed in the room. I had never seen anything happen like that before. I could see she was humiliated and I was embarrassed for her. I immediately turned around and started fumbling with anything I could get my hands on to pretend I didn't just see what happened. I never saw that girl again. I have a story from a client of mine about a previous coworker. So I have this client coming in for a Brazilian. As soon as we are in the room she warns me that last time she was in, she didn't like her last experience and let me know that she has her clit pierced. I was like, cool, no probs. Thanks for the heads up, let's try to make this better. I figured she lifted or bruised. So we get started and there's the piercing. No biggie. Well, halfway through, she starts talking and I was like, I hope this has been a better experience for you. I wouldn't want a repeat of last time. And she explains that it wasn't the waxing, it was the waxer. Apparently, when she explained her piercing to the previous esthetician, she pulled the towel back and patted the pierced clit without gloves, saying how she has never seen one of these before. Under no circumstance are you to directly touch a client there. The woman was not impressed and refused to return until she was sure the previous esthetician was no longer employed. So it's not really my experience, I just felt bad for my client.